the oldest member of the council who sat the chair. His name was Demny Ogden. He is a human man, and he served on the council for almost 80 years, to the point where he was extremely old and gray, and just this past week he has died of age. So for the first time in a long time, there is a empty seat at the council table. So as you're keeping your ear to the ground, learning kind of what's going on, that's the buzz on everybody's lips. It seems like everybody thinks that their captain is going to be the next man to sit the council. There are, of course, all of these rumors flying around that Demny was poisoned, that he was taken out by one of the other counselors. And that's most of what everybody is talking about.
How many other ships are moored out there? Or just ours?
Typically, maybe a half dozen or so.
Okay.
At any given time, but now there's a few more than that. As it seems like word of Demny's death has started to go out into the seas. It does seem like the Kovnos is bustling a little more than usual. As for a good place to meet with your companions alone, there is a lot of wilderness around. You would be able to find a quiet spot in the woods, kind of just off the map, off to the northeast, probably, relatively easily. Or at the moment, back aboard the Deceit. It would be trivial to find an empty room that nobody's using at the moment to have a brief conversation. Or you could pay for a private room at Mom's Boarding. Is there anything else Red is attempting to do?
No, not right now.
Okay. Red, make a perception check, please.
$13.
13. As you're kind of scouting out the eastern docks here, all these really rotten ones, apparently. See how many of these are rotten? That's gross. Kind of getting the lay for the land, saying as if often the tree line would be a good place to meet with your companions after hours. You realize you're being shadowed.
Mm-hmm.
You just notice him behind you, and you glance behind, and every once in a while, and you see just this squat, fat figure duck back behind a wall or a structure, or this last time as you're coming along this dock, you hear a splash as it jumps into the water.
Okay.
To avoid your gaze.
Where are the most people like moving around? It sounds like we should actually be pretty crowded with more than the normal number of ships, right?
This area up here, where you're at, kind of up here,
mm-hmm.
This building here is called Tech Regs. It's an unnamed tavern that just has a big filled mug on the signboard. That's where a lot of the traffic is going, because that's where you can throw down a few coppers for a mug of just gut rot. Once you come past that building, though, out over here, this is where Bo's and Bob's building is. Less activity, but you're not going to be able to get away with doing anything sketchy. It's the early morning, there are eyes, and it's a clear day. So I was really easy to notice this guy.
If I go into a large crowded area, I wouldn't be able to make a stealth check and try and lose the guy.
You try to lose the guy? Oh, no, you surely could if you double back towards the tavern.
Yeah, no, that's what I want to do. I want to go to an area where there's just a lot of people milling around, so it's easier to get lost in the crowd.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and make that stealth check. Make this at advantage, though, because he jumped off the pier.
So 27.
Okay. And after a few more minutes, you're confident that you've lost your tail.
Oh no, that's a 28. My dex went up. And then I'd like to follow him without being noticed. If I could pick him back up.
He drags himself off the water, and you can see he's kind of frantically looking for you, where you're kind of just blended back in the crowd. He's one of the he's a rat folk, a young man, just very fat, easily the most obese rat folk you've ever seen. And he looks around, and you can tell after he notices that you've lost him, he does start scampering back your direction towards the tavern. So you wait for him to move, and you're following him?
Yeah, I want to shadow him.
Okay. And he circles back along this dock over to here. Then he comes back in along this dock here.
Mm-hmm.
And then he very carefully jumps his way across some rocks and planks to this circular structure in the middle. This is just... At one point, this might have been a lighthouse, but it's kind of dilapidated and broken. You can see where the roof of the structure, maybe 4 stories up, has been repaired so it doesn't leak. But he disappears around the side of this structure and enters it.
Okay. That's good enough for me.
Okay.
I was just about to ask you what that was.
Birdie, is there a particular place on this map where you're wandering?
Well, I was gonna wander there, actually.
Okay.
This red went that way, I figured I'd go this way.
Okay. Well, coming this way, you step in both of these traps. But now, coming towards the center, you see the structure that I just described to Red. And all these little boats and things. None of these vessels are actually sailing. A lot of these are just little houseboats that have been turned into just floating shacks. A lot of other little structures.
So is this like the residential area?
In as much as a town like this would have a permanent residence, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I just was wandering this way. Because we already know what these buildings are. Figured I'd just walk over towards this one. Like I said, not the D9. Like I said, okay. I'm not really like looking for anything in particular like Red is.
And from this position, I mean, you can see where there's the door going into this repurposed lighthouse. And from here, coming along this gangplank here, there are guarded entrances up onto the damned minnow, guarded by very burly-looking pirates. They don't take particular notice of you just because you're a very small guy in a very large crowd filled with ne'er-do-wells. But this is how you would get aboard the damned minnow if that was your task.
I'm assuming that they don't let just anybody wander up on the damned minnow.
You do see some traffic going back and forth onto the ship. I mean, this is the biggest structure in town. All of the counselors live here with their various households, and pretty much everybody who's anybody has business aboard the damned minnow at some point during their stay. Birdie's not anybody, but it looks like there's a lot of ways you could get aboard this by sneaking aboard or kind of talking your way up or claiming to be on business for Captain Ayaz. You could get on there if you wanted.
Oh, well, I mean, I was just about to ask you, are they turning people away? But yeah, no.
More like they're just keeping an eye on who's coming and going.
I'm just going to walk on board. Just going to pretend like I belong.
Pretend like you belong?
Like, yeah.
Okay. And yeah, one of the gruff guards steps in your path, makes eye contact with you, and asks you a few curt questions about who you serve under and what vessel you sailed in with.
Oh, I answer.
Then he asks which counselor you're here to see.
I was just wandering around. First time here.
So he confirms that you don't have business with any of the counselors.
Right.
He says, we'll be keeping an eye on you. And he doesn't block your path, but he crosses his arms and he watches you the whole time you're going up the gangplank, and he has an amused grin on his face. Like, try something. Try a little something.
Well, he jokes on him. Everything I try turns out to be a big mess, not a little one. Ha
What is Birdie hoping to accomplish when he gets onto the damned minnow?
Like I said, I'm just wandering around looking. Not really any set goal in mind. I do. What is this?
Just part of the ship. the main deck of the ship, like the main actual structure, there's a whole second level that's kind of built above this, joined by masts. The ship has more masts than a ship of this size would need if it was sailing. The masts were added later to support this kind of second structure, and kind of a flea market, kind of swap meet sort of station. A lot of like lesser sailors will have come here who just came into possession of interesting cargo, trying to flog their wares, get what coin they can before they're back out to sea. So a lot of tents and lean-tos are set up on the actual deck of the ship. There are several entrances going into the forecastle and a couple going to below deck, which you do not see traffic going into or coming out of.
The bazaar is probably what would catch Birdie's attention.
Okay. And yeah, just lots of little trinkets and baubles and foodstuffs to purchase. Lots of smells, lots of lies. You see a lot of traffic going up both the by ladders or by rope. By like netting or rigging, I guess is the word, up to where this second layer is as well.
Mm-hmm. Birdie probably would have spent his entire share like in one, just on random crap right there. Just small, worthless trinkets. 102 gold worth right there. It's all gone.
Okay.
She's got an armful of like random crap.
Just write down 100 gold and 2 silver worth of random pirate treasure. A lot of the people you're dealing with here, hearing that the Deceit has just moored off of shore, there's a lot of questions about what new cargo is coming in, and they kind of grill you for that information.
I just shake my head no. Probably because I don't remember.
Okay. So you don't tell anybody that the Deceit has recently scuttled the Blue Nixie.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, Birdie spends the whole morning wheeling and dealing in this little bazaar.
It's random pirate crap. That's why he has an eye patch now.
Make a... You just bought an eye patch? Make a perception check.
That is a... what is my perception? I think that's a 15.
A 15?
Yeah, that's a 15.
At some point during the morning, out of the corner of your eye, you notice Kausvin, one of the 4 bugbears who serves aboard the Deceit. You catch his eye in the bazaar. Right now, he's just buying some kebabs or something from the bazaar. But you kind of keep tabs on him, and eventually you see him disappear into the door leading into the Damned Minnows forecastle.
Now, I see 2 courses of action here. The one that would be safer, and the one that would get me in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Smart way, awesome way.
Right. So, I'm going to follow him. Just going to nonchalantly... I got an eye patch now, so I blend in.
Okay.
He says Jarl.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much risk is Birdie willing to assume?
Always 10. It's been a minute since we heard that question.
Always 10? I do want to remind you that last session I just killed a player.
Yeah, but his thirst for blood has been quenched.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to make you aware that the gambler's fallacy is a thing. So if you're like, he just killed a player last week, he's not ready to kill another one yet.
Fricker, are you saying you're a random number generator?
He's just a complicated series of OD&D encounter tables.
Alright, Elon Musk.
A 6.
A 6, okay.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Extremely disappointed in your cowardice.
I'm already doing the thing that I shouldn't be doing.
Okay. Going inside the forecastle. And you're mildly familiar with the forecastle on the Deceit because you dined there a couple times and you broke in once.
Just once.
The inside of the structure looks less of the inside of the ship and more of the inside of, like, kind of a stately manner. It's got... You can see it's well maintained, well repaired. There's artwork, there's decor, and it's not as heavily trafficked. Nobody stops you as you enter. You kind of just pretending like you do belong here.
Yeah, like I'm just following the bugbear.
Make a deception or a performance check.
Oh,
One of the two.
It doesn't. 11.
11.
It doesn't
okay.
matter.
After a few moments, are you trying to, like, avoid running into anybody?
Yeah.
Okay. You hear a door open as you go into the forecastle, and there's kind of a short hallway. You don't see which way Calvin went. But at the end of this hallway, it kind of splits into a T-junction. There's a couple doors on your left and right. After a few moments, you're trying to get your bearings and figure out where the bugbear went. You hear one of the doors in front of you open, and out steps a black-scaled Dragonborn. And you kind of duck back behind a piece of art, like a large flowery vase, and the corridor just fills up with the stink of this Dragonborn's pipe as he smokes for a few moments. And then he says in Draconic, in that Kobold pigeon that you're used to. Now, Birdie was... You worked for many years under your Black Dragon sire, is that correct?
Yeah.
What kind of relationship did Birdie have with the various, like, half-dragons and Dragonborn that would have been his taskmasters?
I mean, one of respect, but, like not quite the familiar relationship he has with Adrex.
Okay.
But, like, you know, they would have known who Birdie was, and he would have... Like, Birdie helped defend the borders of the swamp. Poorly, because everybody died, but he did.
Watching him smoke for a few seconds, you think you recognize this Dragonborn as one of the mercenaries, whose job it was to kind of... Like, he would be sent out from time to time when goblinoid raiders would war just outside of your borders. He would go out with some kobolds and some other underlings, pick off what little survivors there were of, like, a recently attacked goblinoid horde, take what wealth they had left, bring slaves back to the swamps. And you think you recognize this Dragonborn as a man named Handaxe. And the thing about Handaxe is that that's not a nickname. That was his actual name.
I mean, my name's Birdie, so...
He had a reputation of always poisoning his weapons. He had contacts amongst the Yuan-ti, and after the fall of your master, you thought most of his Dragonborn and his half-dragons, his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, you thought most of them had been killed. Seeing Handaxe here, there was always a question in your mind. He was always kind of sketchy. He always was talking with the snake people of the jungles nearby. Seeing him here, now you're wondering, did he have something to do with it? And you watch him for a few minutes smoking his pipe, and then he disappears back into the door.
Screw the bugbear. We're going after Handaxe. I'm going to be very happy if it turns out he actually uses, like, a scimitar or something?
No, he actually fights with a hand axe in each hand.
No.
He
that
thinks that's
sucks.
very clever. Not
You
every
know?
Dragonborn is as subtle and nuanced as Adrex.
Does he throw the hand axes?
Sometimes.
There you go.
Adrex is a rival.
No, I'm following Handex now.
So you're going to go into that room with him?
Going to very quietly open the door.
Okay, and you open the door very quietly, but inside is what looks like just a small meeting room. And there are 5 or 6 people sitting here, including Handax and Cowsvin the Bugbear. And all of them are just turned to you as the door opens, and you're standing in the doorway.
No, I just cracked it.
You're still going to notice it.
Well, I mean, then I'll close it and
Okay.
run away.
Make a hide check to see if you can avoid somebody seeing where you went. I gotta move my hand out of the way because you literally just rolled the die under. That's kind of a low hide check, isn't it?
That's a 15.
A 15? Okay. How do you run away? You just leave and then run down the gangplank?
Yeah.
And you make it back out in front of the Royal Slipper Saloon. And now there's kind of a crowd of people in between you and the guard standing next to the gangplank. And you're pretty sure nobody's following you.
Like, I just have... Like... I'm gonna go in here and look for Adrex.
Okay. Adrex,
Yes, sir.
you went directly to the saloon first thing in the morning.
Yep.
Now, they have a wide variety of goods or of drink, I mean. And the big benefit of this saloon over the other one and why it can be so expensive is they always get their hands on Southling booze, which has a reputation, especially amongst pirates who get to taste it more often, as being superior to what gets brewed in the north. These elves and dwarves down south really know their craft.
So they don't make their own, but they have a source where they can get it.
They definitely do have contacts with brewers in the north as well, because, some goblins and orcs just don't appreciate the finer palate of a good dwarven stout. Yashnars makes a curt introduction to Urkan. Urkan and Mom run the business here. Mom is actually Urkan's mother. Mom, is a Firbolg. And Urkan is her half-orc daughter. And she's running the saloon.
Adrix is trying to do the mental math on that. F-orc. Daughter.
You know a lot about orcs, yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
Work expert.
Orcs are... and how to put this gingerly? Orcs are well known for being able to mate with any creature, which is not something most species can do. And Volos says that orcs aren't picky about who they mate with, and they typically mate with their slaves that they have conquered and taken. So if an orc raider raids a Firbolg village, their children are going to be half-orcs. That's why half-orcs are so pervasive.
He's half orc though, like half Firbolg. Alright, Adrix requests is the bestest, finest brew they have available. Let's get drinking.
Did you tell Yashnars you were going to go with the finest brew?
No, this is a surprise.
Okay. Urkin gives Adrix kind of a flirty look. Most of the people in here right now are taking their morning meals. So the smells of like freshly cooked pork and baked bread are filling the bottom floor, because it's a saloon, but it's also adjacent to the boarding house. This is where a lot of the officers aboard the vessels will take their meals. She asks what vessel you came in on. When you ask her for her finest brew.
What does that matter?
She's just
Adrex
making
says-
sure that you can afford it.
Well, how much is it?
And you've piqued, especially Yashnar's interest. Like, he's just ordered, he's taking his meal here right now, and he's just having a mug of ale with it. For 120 gold,
Oh, all
she
right.
sells a bottle of gelled spirits from the other side.
So it's literally spirits?
And Adrex puts the coin down.
So 120 gold, that's more than your share from the Blue Nixie.
No, Adrex got 150.
Oh, that's right, because you got a share and a half.
And there's party loot if worse comes to worse, but
Also, our inheritance from Raazu
Yeah.
It's what Raazu would have wanted.
for Adrex to be blasted.
Because she
Also, I
counts
can't
up all
remember
the
the name.
coin.
I can't remember the name of the ship for the life of me.
The deceit.
The seat.
Blue or Nixie?
The bluest Nixie. She tells
The
you
Dauntless. That's not right. That's our previous campaign.
that's the relentless.
See, this is how ferocity happens.
She tells you that
These origin story.
she cannot, in good conscience, serve you this bottle on an empty stomach.
Fine. Gosh. Gotta get drunk in the morning and everyone wants to stop you. Tell you.
She tells you you'll thank her later for this. So will you be taking an officer's breakfast? Yashnar's
Yeah.
just having like a typical crewman breakfast. Some of the officers have much more posh, fancier food, like a nice ham steak.
Ooh. Ham steak.
I'm picturing that gif I found of the Dragonborn eating a bucket of nachos.
It's served in a big hat. That's going to be an extra 5 silver for the officer's breakfast.
Ding.
And it's a good amount of food. Fills Adrex's belly. She comes back out after she's sure that you've cleaned your plate. And you can tell you're like amidst this little ritual that's happening here. And you can look around and see some of the other officers taking their breakfast have taken interest. Some of them see recognition. They've been down this road before.
Adrex is making a scene. I love it.
Adrex is being hazed.
Eventually, she comes back out. She bears a small green chest, which she sets on the counter. And she takes out a brass key and sets it in front of the chest. And she takes out a little brass bell and sets it next to the key. She tells you that the spirits are properly sealed and chilled, and that the proper way is to use the key to open the box. Take the bottle out, and before placing the corkscrew in to pop the cork, you're supposed to take the bell in your left hand, ring it, and then ask permission.
This sounds fun. All right. Let me make sure I got this right. Take the key, open the chest. Inside there's a bottle and a bell. Before you pop open the bottle, I take the bell and I ring it, and I say, "May I please have some?" I got this right?
She nods. She says that will suffice. And as you're kind of confirming these orders, she puts a little a very nice little china plate in front of you, along with a knife and fork. And then she stands back.
All right. This sounds exciting. Adrex proceeds to follow the directions to the T. The key in, open the chest, take out the bell.
So inside the chest, when you open it up, there's this velvet cushion inside with an indentation where this wine bottle has been laid. It's opaque and black, and the cork, it doesn't look like it's made out of like standard cork. It looks like it's made out of some kind of coral or sea sponge that is a very deep blood red, stoppering the top of this bottle. There's no label on the bottle other than that. And there's also a corkscrew inside.
All right. Adrex rings the bell. May I please have some?
And you ask for permission, and as you do, a compulsion comes over your hand, and it just takes up the corkscrew and starts winding it into the bottle before you even realize what you're doing. And there's a loud pop as the cork comes free. And the officers, including Yashnars, sitting there in the saloon, all raise their glass, and a hip hip goes up. And there is just a frosty condensation coming from inside the bottle. It doesn't smell much of anything, but the bottle is very, very, it's ice cold almost to the touch. And then Erican motions for the little plate sitting in front of you.
Am I supposed to pour it onto the plate?
Holding the bottle in your hand, it's not sloshing around like liquid. It's definitely a semi-solid jelly inside this bottle.
Okay, let's pour some on the plate.
And you pour a quantity of this, and it's jellied liquor on this plate. It's like a very deep bronze in color. And you pour out the contents of the bottle, and you've got this little like jellied log now.
Wait.
So I have proficiency with brewer supplies, and one of the things I get with that is history. Can I make a history check to see if I've ever experienced anything like this before? Like, in terms of, I don't know, like, this is a thing, just, this is how beer in the South is served, or anything like that.
Having been to the Feywild, and having had a kind of awakening experience to an elven spirit in the Underdark, and of course being a self-professed expert, you've also read extensively that book of elven magical history. This is some deep, deep Fey malarkey.
Oh. All right.
There is definitely magic infused in this bronze-looking cranberry sauce substance.
Oh, let's get to town then. Adrex's thinking is, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to become a magical being. So knife and fork, cut, and imbibs the drink?
I just realized Adrex's drink is drinking? ? Magical jello shots.
Yeah, basically. I was wondering
Nice.
how long before somebody made the connection.
I made a different connection.
Come on, man. Why? So, Adrex, you take up a quantity of this gelatinous substance, and it immediately melts when it hits the heat of your tongue. And it's just this very sweet and very warm feeling, like a very fine wine. And as it goes down, you just feel euphoric for a moment. It feels like time slows down as this substance is slithering down your throat and warming up your insides and settling on your breakfast. You feel very jolly. Roll a charisma saving throw.
This is, do we start hearing Steppenwolf?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, that's a 6.
A 6.
SpaghettiOs.
And you are just overwhelmed with this feeling of just camaraderie. And you are compelled to share this substance with everybody at hand. And you start cutting off...
you have to try some of this. This is a...
You start cutting off little pieces for Yashnars and for Urkin, who's standing right there, and the other officers. And another hip hip goes up as everybody... And there's a party in here this morning. As these jellied spirits make their rounds. And you only get one more mouthful yourself after having shared the rest with everybody else in the building. But nothing terrible happens to you. You don't get taken over by face spirits. You don't grow rabbit ears or anything.
Aww.
And as you finish off the bottle, which is yours to keep, it's traditional, of course. They restopper the bottle for you. You get to keep it as part of your little experience. They take back the corkscrew and the bell. At the end, the experience is very bittersweet because you feel like the celebration is coming to a close, and you've spent it with lifelong friends, and it will be a great deal of time before you see the likes of this celebration again.
Yeah.
Adrex just bursts into tears now thinking about Raazu.
No.
Damn!
He's like, I would pour one out for Raazu, but it's 120 gold a bottle.
And it tastes really good.
And you are also completely plastered. Absolutely shit-fiassed. Birdie, you step into the saloon just too late to get in on any of this.
I wouldn't have drank it anyway. Ate it?
Adrex and Raazu or not Raazu, she's dead. That's funny. Yashnars are both here. They're both in here. There's some officers that you don't recognize from other ships. Everybody is trashed, and you're like, it's 10 in the morning. They're
Adrex
singing.
waves Birdie over. Rampart, get over here!
Wrap up. Nice.
Like, I go over and I squint at him. And like, don't call me that.
And Adrex picks you up and puts him on his lap and starts bouncing you on his knee.
Oh my god.
Birdie pulls out a dagger and he stabs Adrex in the thigh. And I hop down.
Birdie, you heard what I said about not being allowed to brandish weapons while in the Kovnas.
No, I didn't hear that, actually.
Okay.
So then I don't stab him in the leg.
Walk that one back pretty quick.
There's that non-cipher bonus.
Cipher bonus.
Well, I didn't. I missed that, apparently. I'll just bite him then. That's easily.
He's too drunk to stop at that.
Just gnaw on his arm. Like I did that one time. Remember that? That was funny.
Raazu was there.
Yeah, she's dead now, so whatever.
Trying to guilt one of you assholes into it.
Gwoo,
Hey.
you return
So-
the arrow,
Mm-hmm.
and then what?
So giving you the information about Bosun Bob before then, Gu would probably be of the opinion that since Raazu did not kill that stupid kobold when she had the chance, that this is a perfect opportunity to put him off the ship as well.
Okay.
And is Noakes in agreement with that?
Only if you can get a decent price.
Okay.
Because Noakes' response to somebody... I did make sure that this kobold didn't get a share of any treasure, by the way. He's
Yeah.
in the brig still. Yeah, because Noakes' thing is he committed a crime against the ship. He needs to go for a swim.
Yeah.
Raazu wanted to punish and then attempt to rehabilitate this kobold. But yeah, Noak says if you can get some coin for him, whatever you think he's worth. Yeah, he's amenable to that idea.
All right, then that's what then in the process of also returning the arrow, that's where we will go to Bosun Bob.
Okay. And you see some other like middle officers from various ships dealing with Bob. There's always people coming and going, some of them in chains. Bob himself is a purple-skinned Goliath. Very dirty. You don't think this man's ever bathed in his life. Has Gu ever had to work the fields back here for any reason?
Probably at some point in his life.
So Bob recognizes you immediately as you come in. And he asks if you've come to serve another 2 months in his pumpkin patch.
Not so much. The Deceit recently lost, was it 3? Yeah. Lost 3, and we're looking to replace some hands, and we've got a bit of a wily one that tried to shiv another crewmate. We're trying to offload him.
And he says if you turn him over to him, he's not going to be wily for very long. He'll see to that. He asks what you merit the value of his crime. In other words, he's asking how much this kobold owes the Deceit for.
How much was a regular crewman's share? Because the way I see it, if he took another sailor out of commission, that's basically a share that wouldn't go anywhere.
100 gold and 2 silver was his share of the Nixie that he didn't get because he was awaiting punishment.
Say 75 gold.
Tells you 75 is a fairly steep penalty. That's many months of labor. What shape is this man? He's asking what race he is.
Kobold.
Make an insight check.
Let's see.
I'm sure Gu is really good at these.
Maybe. We'll see. I haven't really. Not really, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes.
What? Are you telling me your barbarian is not good at reading people's faces?
Yeah, mostly. 14.
14. For a moment, you see Bob's eyes get real wide, which is very curious. You think that maybe he might be more interested in kobolds than he lets on.
Okay.
But he tells you that 75 is too steep for a kobold. This is... kobolds aren't of much use to him in the fields. They can't work long hours. They're not strong. He doesn't need any tunneling done. He certainly doesn't need any escapees. And there's not a lot of officers coming in looking to buy kobolds off of him. They're not in high demand. He says he'll take him off your hand for 10 gold for old time's sake.
The way Gu sees it, any amount of money is a good amount of money. So, but Gu will try and push his luck. Actually, no, he won't. He's not very persuasive. That's probably not the best to say.
He's thinking, how quick can I
it is.
10 gold?
I feel like there is a decided racial bias against kobolds.
You think?
I don't know. I'm starting to see a pattern.
Why would you buy one kobold when you could just buy a den and get like 50 to 100 kobolds?
So yeah, that seems an equitable price. Just looking to get rid of them.
You got to be careful about kobolds. If you feed one, then they just never go away, and then they get in your walls.
They start to multiply. It's like that movie Gremlins. He asks
Almost
what this
exactly
kobold
like
did.
that movie Gremlins.
He asks what this kobold did aboard the Deceit.
Tried to knife a goblin for some slight, perceived or otherwise.
He asks if old Noakes is going soft.
It wasn't Noakes that left him alive. It's a hobgoblin woman who came on board. She's dead now.
He sneers and he says, "Sounds like Noakes is going real soft." Are you doing anything with Bose and Bob except for making these trades?
Well, also looking for him to pick out some candidates to replace both Nim and the deceased.
Okay.
And that Noakes is on. Like, I don't. Unless Noakes delegated the authority to recruit these new crew members, it wouldn't really be Guu's place to do so. And it seems like Noakes. This would be more Noakes' decision. It had a decision for that to pick out candidates for Noakes to come take a look at when he's no longer required to be on the ship.
Well, he delegated that to you, and Gu has
Okay.
served aboard the ship long enough to know what they need.
All right then.
And typically what you'll do in this kind of situation is you'll find some able bodies who are just ready to get back out to sea, who only maybe have a few silvers left on their
Indenture.
left on their indenture. You'll buy them out for a pittance, and they get away from the fields a few weeks early and back out to sea on a new vessel where they can start again. I will leave these 4 replacements to your purview.
Mm-hmm.
Just whip up quick names, races, alignments, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Does he run a take a kobold, leave a kobold service?
And as he takes you out into the field and he's introducing you to some of these hands. Some of them, most of the ones he's introducing you to are just, they got a little too drunk while on leave. They mouthed off where they shouldn't have, or bared a knife where they shouldn't have, racked up a few golds worth of indenture. They've been here for a couple months. Their ship has long since left. They're looking to sign on with a new captain, and they're pretty desperate.
Okay. See, so we're losing the kobold. We lost
An orc,
an orc,
a kobold,
Raazu. Oh, 2 kobolds, an orc, and Raazu. That's who we lost.
Very pointedly, he does not bring you around to any other kobolds or goblins. Everyone he's introducing you to is no small-sized creatures. In other words, there's a lot of every other type of goblinoid, lots of orcs and half orcs, firbolgs, a smattering of humans. 1 or 2 Dragonborn. Basically everything else out of Volos, more or less.
No Aarakocra, they just fly away.
Well, if there were any Aarakocra working these fields, they would have broken their wings. So they specifically
Rude.
couldn't do that. But I'll leave it up to you if there's another Aarakocra here with broken wings that you want to put on the ship.
All right.
He asks how many more of the little dragonlings Captain Eyes has aboard these days.
It's just it was just there's Scampers and then there's Birdie, right?
There's one more. The other.
No, he doesn't exist.
No, that's a ratling.
There
No,
are 3
no.
aboard the ship. Nem,
Yeah.
Hevlu, Sokka was just killed.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's 1 other kobold crewman, then there's Birdie, and then there's Scampers, the night watchman, who Bose and Bob would probably be familiar with, having served aboard the Deceit for a while.
Yeah, and the ghoul will rattle them off.
Okay. And he chuckles for a second and says, "I don't suppose the dear captain would be looking to to part with old scampers. But these other two, Hevlu and Birdie, just between you and me, do you suppose there's any chance of perhaps orchestrating some trouble for them, some reason to bring them ashore and put them in the fields?
How much coin is in it?
Don't you?
He sidesteps the question and he asks, is it possible? You may have to sidestep Noakes on this one. He would never, of course, agree to an undeserved punishment. But if we could fabricate a little something and go behind his back, I could perhaps strike a deal with you. Right now he's just asking you if this is possible. Is this something Gwu is even open to?
Personally, no. But the problem is this is basically the only source of labor out here, source of easy labor out here. So we have to play nice. It basically is the vibe I'm getting.
Make an insight check as Gwu is puzzling this out. This is above the pay grade of a level 5 barbarian.
15.
So,
Doing real good on those insight checks.
Yep.
This is not the sort of thing Bose and Bob has ever floated by before. This is pretty shady. And your immediate thought is, does the council know he's doing this? Whatever his end game is, if the council or the other captains were to find out, it could cause trouble for him. So probably you saying no, there will be no blowback on you. Because he doesn't want to be found out either.
Wu just simply says, just the 4 crewmen for now.
He nods. And over the course of the next few hours, you find a few able bodies who are willing to come aboard the Deceit in exchange for roll percentile.
Die that goes off the table is 10s.
He's purposely rolling one off the table.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
51.
Classic Wu.
And what's your charisma score?
Charisma score is 10.
10. Okay. 41 silver.
Okay. So
That's how much labor you're willing to buy.
came out ahead on that.
Okay.
Came out ahead on that deal.
Wendy,
Yeah.
are you going with Sweetie Bird as she's wheeling and dealing with people, or are you going to go off on your own and...
I think I'm going to go with her for now because trading is a game of relationships.
So
I need to get introduced to these people.
she stops at a few places only very, very briefly upon coming into town. The first place she stops is D3 down here. And she's only there long enough to just exchange a quick little sack of something for some coin with the maidservant Allie there, a human girl with a twisted arm. She doesn't introduce you, she doesn't explain what she's doing, and she is super fast because she's a Tabashi. She is moving very quickly.
It's cool, I can keep up with her.
Okay. The second place she stops is here at Mom's boarding.
Yeah.
And very impatiently, she's asked to wait. And she has her arms crossed and her foot's tapping away. You hear her claws clinking against the wood of the floor.
While she's waiting, I'll ask her what we picked up at the last place.
And make a persuasion check.
Uh-huh. Wendy hates wasting time as much as she does. So I almost called her ferocity. I don't like her that much. That's a 17.
She tells you it's a type of salt that you couldn't enjoy because you don't have teeth.
Huh.
Eventually, Mom comes out. Mom is an old Firbolg woman, and she's wearing layers of flower-patterned skirts. And in a loop of her belt, she's carrying this black spoon. You don't know it's a spoon at first, of course, but you do hear by reputation she carries this spoon everywhere.
Okay.
And there's other details here, but I can't read them to you because you're blind.
Okay.
And very swiftly, the same kind of transaction occurs. You see Mom tries to engage Sweetie Bird in conversation, but Sweetie Bird brushes her off and doesn't allow it. But they make the same kind of transaction. This time, Sweetie Bird hands over coin and doesn't get anything in return. And then she swiftly leaves.
Are they speaking in another language or common?
Oh, they're speaking common. Yeah.
So, like, what kind of transaction did they make? Like, she didn't get anything. Was she trading for something that's going to get delivered, or?
That's your understanding very quickly. Like, yeah, they have a standing agreement that for this amount of money, Mom will send a box of, or a crate or something or other over to the deceased.
All right, let's keep going.
And then you end up aboard the damned minnow on both layers of this bazaar. And this is when she starts wheeling and dealing, and you see Winnie doesn't have any mercantile experience. She doesn't like really know what money is.
No.
Okay. Make an insight check.
The closest thing Wendy has to what money is occasionally the monastery would do favors for people, and then those people would deliver like goods, like foods and stuff.
Okay.
So she's like, okay, well, this is like doing a favor for someone and then getting the food later. Did you say a wisdom or an insight?
Insight.
That's 19.
Sweetie Bird is so excited to be collecting these materials. Various types of meat and fruits, spices and bottles of oils and savory wines and things. She's so excited, and she's just like a little kid. She just can't wait to get her hands on everything. And once she does, she immediately loses interest and becomes excited about the next thing. She's blowing through these transactions so quickly that even with your only base understanding of trade, every merchant sees her coming a mile away and is taking advantage of her.
It's taking her for a ride.
Everybody is making bank off of Sweetie Bird's just naive nature and just desire to get as much as she can as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Now make me a perception check. Do you do anything to step in at this, or do you just let it happen?
I think that what Wendy's going to do at the next one is going to, before they show up, Wendy's going to ask how much of such and such thing she thinks that Wendy should be able to pick up, and then try to essentially outdo her, get something else. Wendy's going to be trying to, like, not so much show her how bad she is at trading, as just show her, like, how to get more stuff.
Okay, make a... This is your perception?
Yeah, that's my perception.
Okay.
That's a 23.
Okay, now make a just straight charisma check to haggle with one of these merchants.
Ha! I'm worse than she is.
You realize that, like, you're supposed to haggle in these situations, but you don't really know
It's
how
a lot
to do
harder when you're not the one just watching.
And somehow, like, you feel like you did it right, but when you step away from the merchant, you realize, I'm pretty sure I just got taken too.
Yeah. And I just look over, and I'm just like, I just shrug at Sweetie Bird. I'm just like, okay, actually, this is really hard.
Over the course of the day, though, you realize that now and then, not often, but now and then, you notice that Sweetie Bird is stealing from some of these merchants. While she's talking with them and making transactions and shoving things in your arms to carry, you'll, like, feel her tail brush past you for just a moment.
Is she stealing from the ones that are taking her for a ride?
It seems to be indiscriminate. And you're not sure it's even completely deliberate. It might just be, oh, she sees this other thing that she wants, and she'll just take it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Wendy's okay with this. Like, see, because here's the thing. Here's the way Wendy sees it. And this is helpful because Wendy just fucked up at the same thing. Is these merchants are really, really good at the thing they're doing, and they have an advantage on Sweetie Bird because of that. But Sweetie Bird's really good at this other thing.
So
it's barely even stealing. It's just aggressive trading.
Okay.
It's purloining.
No.
Plus, and Wendy like thinks this through in her head for a few minutes, making sure she's okay with it, and then she remembers, wait, aren't we pirates?
So, the only downside to this situation is if she gets caught,
Yeah.
at best, it's going to be months in the fields.
Yeah.
If she gets caught by somebody who has contacts in town, who can throw some muscle around, she's dead in an alley. And you know from experience that she's not great at defending herself.
Alright, I think my way of dealing with this is I'm gonna keep an eye out for anyone trying to keep an eye out on her.
No, she's real good
Basically,
at
I'm gonna watch Sweetie Bird.
Okay.
Actually, no, I legitimately am good at this. It's an open air market.
And yeah, after a few hours of going around and wheeling and dealing, it does seem throughout the town that a lot of regular fixtures in the Kovnos know Sweetie Bird by name. She's well liked. And yeah, you're loaded down with bushels and boxes and little jars and all manner of things.
Yeah.
Twice over the course of not twice, we'll say once, over the course of the morning, she asks you to fly it all back to the Deceit and then come back for another trip.
Uh-huh.
It's real easy to see how she burns through a whole 150 gold each leave.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Okay.
Again, this is how Wendy would be spending her money anyway. She figures, what's the point of having money if you don't use it on something?
After you're done with all the shopping, Sweetie Bird asks you, and you can tell over the course of this time, just maybe she's starting to warm up to you.
Yeah.
And at the end of it all, she asks you if you're able to take a pipe. In your beak, she means. She knows you don't have lips, so.
I'm not sure, but I'm interested to find out.
She asks you if you can spot her a further 10 gold.
Sure.
She takes you over to D8 up here. This is just a wooden structure, but it's very exotically decorated with lots of colorful paints that you can't see.
Yeah.
And she brings you into the building, and stepping in, you can smell this very kind of moist and very heady odor, and you realize you stepped into essentially a smokehouse, like an opium den. People are coming in here to go chasing the dragon.
Yeah, don't say a smokehouse, because this is Wendy. She thinks that's something very different.
And you're greeted by a young woman in a very sing-songy voice. She transacts with Sweetie Bird in the Tabashi language. And then Sweetie Bird elbows you and asks you to spot another 40.
Whoa. Yeah, what the hell?
That's what you get for having a port buddy who's very flighty like a cat.
You're led down into a basement level room, and it's really chilly down here. It's very cold. Whereas outside, you're kind of coming off winter and going into spring, and the days are getting a little bit longer and a little bit warmer. It feels like this cellar level is kept kind of artificially cold. And it's much smokier down here. And you're introduced to a small room where they draw the curtains behind. And the woman tells you, in a very heavily accented common, she says that Gasani will be by presently. And Sweetie Bird teaches you how to smoke.
Nice.
There is a strong burning incense in the center of the room. And it's very humid down here. More misty than humid, really, because it's cold. And after a few moments, you hear the curtains draw, and another woman enters. And she begins speaking what you recognize as magic incantations, the kind of like verbal components you need to read a spell off of a scroll.
Rad.
And make a Constitution check. Let's see how
Alright.
well Wendy holds this drug.
On a very special episode of Flumph of the Wild.
22.
Makes you very sleepy and very calm. And the pipe you're smoking with obviously is not made for a beak.
Yeah. Wendy makes do by, like, smoking it kind of badly and then fluttering the air with her cloak to blow it into her face.
But yeah, mostly it makes you feel very sleepy, like in a satisfied way, like after a long, hard day of good, satisfying work. And now you can just relax for hours and hours and hours. And the whole time, this exotic woman is droning these incantations in a language you don't recognize, you don't follow, you haven't heard it before.
Am I at all able to tell that anything is different because she's doing so?
No, not at all. At the end of the experience, so after about an hour or so, you hear Sweetie Bird purring as she's curled up on a cushion in the corner of this little chamber.
Yeah.
And fallen asleep.
Yeah. Wendy's drunk as hell by now, so she's probably petting the cat. I mean, let's be honest.
Is it going to get randy? Do we have to fade to black?
It's not that kind of petting the cat. God damn it, Brick Road.
I don't even know like logistically how that would work. But
neither does Wendy, but she'll find out.
All right, and we'll come back to Nodal for an evening or afternoon action.
We get out, and it's just like, actually, Nodal, you don't do that because it's morning.
Yeah, beautiful. So for two of you guys in the afternoon, you're going to be absolutely trashed. It's going to be good times. Let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break here.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come back, we'll do some afternoon actions.